Hey everyone, ready to dive into a really fascinating historical mystery?
I am.
Okay, awesome. So we are going all the way back to London in 1854,
Uh-huh.
when the city was in the grip of this absolutely terrifying cholera outbreak.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to imagine what that must have been like.
Oh, yeah.
You're walking down the street and there's this undercurrent of fear, right?
Right.
Because people are just dropping dead, like all around.
And it was so quick, too.
Yeah, scary stuff. And what makes it even more interesting is that back then,
Mm-hmm.
most people believed in this thing called the miasma theory.
Oh, yeah, the miasma theory. That was a big one.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Basically, they thought that, all this bad air.
Like literally bad air,
Yeah, bad air, like coming off of,
rotting stuff.
rotting stuff, garbage, whatever. They thought that was what was making everyone sick.
Wow. So every time you smelled something kind of funky, you're like, oh no, I'm going to get cholera.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's wild. But thank goodness for this guy, Dr. John Snow.
Oh, yeah, Dr. John Snow. Now, he was ahead of his time.
He's like, wait a minute, I don't think this bad air thing is quite right.
No, he wasn't buying it.
He suspected there was something else going on, something to do with the water supply.
Interesting.
So that's what we are going to be looking at today. We're
Awesome.
going to be diving deep into Dr. Snow's investigation and how he basically used data
Yeah.
to crack this case wide open. All right, so let's set the scene a little bit. This outbreak hit a place called Soho the hardest.
Right. So.
And Soho wasn't exactly known for being, sparkling clean, right?
Yeah, well, it was very densely populated for one thing.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of people all packed in together.
Yeah.
And sanitation. Not great. Not great at all.
So basically like a recipe for disaster when it comes to disease, huh?
Pretty much, yeah. And with cholera, it spread like wildfire. And the death rate was just incredibly high.
Just awful.
It was a scary time, People were just desperate for answers.
Right, they want to know what was causing this, how to stop it.
Exactly.
So along comes John Snow, and he starts doing something pretty revolutionary for the time.
What's that?
He starts interviewing the residents.
Oh, wow.
But not just interviewing them, he was also marking each cholera case on a map.
Ooh, a map. Okay, that's smart.
And as he's doing this, he starts to notice a pattern, right?
Oh, yeah, he did. And it was a pretty clear one, too. What was it? Most of the cases were clustered around a very specific spot, the Broad Street pump.
The Broad Street pump.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
Well, it was a public water pump,
Mm-hmm.
one of the main sources of water for the community.
So people would just go there, to fill up their buckets and things.
Exactly. Yeah. Just everyday life, getting water for your family.
Wow. And to think that something as simple as that could be so dangerous,
I know, right? It really makes you think.
And that's where the map really comes in,
Oh, yeah.
because it allowed Snow to actually visualize the connection between how close people lived to that pump
Uh-huh.
and how likely they were to get sick.
Right. The closer you were to that pump, the more likely you were to get cholera. It was right there, plain as day.
Wow. Talk about the power of data visualization.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It just brings the numbers to life,
Mhm.
And suddenly you see the story they are telling.
Absolutely.
But I bet it wasn't easy convincing others,
Oh, not at all.
back then, that this was the real deal, right?
Yeah, they were pretty skeptical.
Especially those who were, stuck on that miasma theory.
Oh, yeah, they were holding on to that for dear life.
Like, no, it's the bad air. It's the bad air.
Exactly. And you got to remember the idea of germs spreading disease.
Yeah.
It wasn't really widely accepted yet.
So Snow had his work cut out for him, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Trying to convince people that the water was the culprit.
Mm-hmm.
So what did he do?
Well, he took a pretty bold step.
Okay.
A calculated risk, for sure, but based entirely on the data he had collected.
And what was it?
He recommended removing the handle from the Broad Street pump.
Whoa. Just like that.
Well, he had to do something.
I bet that caused quite a stir.
Oh, you bet it did.
So did they listen?
Well, there was definitely pushback.
Right.
But thankfully, the authorities eventually agreed to it.
Okay.
And here's the incredible part. Almost immediately after they shut down that pump,
Yeah.
the number of new cholera cases, it just plummeted.
Wow.
Just like that.
That's incredible.
It's amazing. Really vindicated all of his hard work,
Absolutely. Talk about a victory for science, right?
It really was.
Okay, so we're going to have to leave it there for today, but make sure you join us for part 2, where we will delve deeper into the fallout from this incredible discovery.
Oh, it gets really interesting.
And we'll explore the lasting impact of Jon Snow's work on public health.
Can't wait.
So until then, stay curious, everyone. That's just talk about proof.
It really was.
But the story doesn't end there, does it?
No, it doesn't. There's actually more. Later on, after all this went down,
Huh.
they found something pretty disturbing near that pump.
What was that?
A leaking cesspit.
Oh, what?
A cesspit. Basically a big old sewage pit.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, right next to the pump.
So all that nasty stuff was just seeping into the water supply.
Exactly. Contaminating it with cholera bacteria.
Makes you want to, go wash your hands just thinking about it.
Right. It's kind of gross.
It is. But it all makes sense now, This discovery really just solidified everything that Jon Snow was saying.
Oh, absolutely.
And it highlighted something that we often take for granted today.
What's that?
The importance of sanitation.
Oh, huge, huge.
Clean water, proper sewage systems.
It's all connected to public health in a major way.
And it all goes back to Jon Snow and his work on the Broad Street pump.
It really does, yeah. Think about it. It wasn't just about solving this one outbreak.
Right.
His work really laid the foundation for modern epidemiology.
Epidemiology. So that's the study of how diseases spread.
Right, exactly. And how to control them.
So like contact tracing and all that.
That's a great example, yeah. And all those disease surveillance systems we have today, tracking diseases all over the world.
Wow, it's amazing to think how it all ties back to this one guy and his map.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It really is. He was way ahead of his time.
Oh, absolutely. But it makes you think about how many other brilliant minds might have been ignored or dismissed throughout history.
Because they dare to challenge the status quo.
Exactly. People who question the accepted beliefs of their time.
And sometimes those are the people who make the biggest breakthroughs,
It's true. It reminds us to always be open to new ideas and different perspectives, even if they challenge what we think we know.
Couldn't agree more. So to bring this back to the present, we have modern sanitation today. We have access to clean water. So how is Jon Snow's story still relevant in the 21st century?
That's a great question. You see, Snow's work, it goes way beyond just that one pump in London. What he really helped us understand was this really crucial link
Between
health, the environment, and social conditions.
You mean things like poverty and access to healthcare?
Exactly. And things like urban planning, too.
Yeah.
How our cities are designed.
All of that plays a role in public health.
Absolutely. It's all interconnected, and Snow's insights are just as relevant today as they were back in 1854.
Because we still face outbreaks.
Right.
We're still dealing with new diseases.
All the time.
And ensuring public health, especially in our complex world, it's a constant challenge.
It is, and that's where data comes in.
Data.
Yes. Understanding patterns, tracking trends, using evidence to make informed decisions, it's crucial for effective public health policy.
So just like Jon Snow did with his map.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He meticulously collected data, he analyzed it, and he used it to take action.
And that's what ultimately saved lives.
It did. His work helped us see the connection between contaminated water and disease, and that led to major improvements in sanitation and public health practices.
And that's why his story is so important to remember.
It's a reminder that we can make a difference, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges.
By following the evidence.
Yeah.
And by being willing to challenge the status quo, just like Jon Snow did.
Exactly.
It really is inspiring
Yeah.
to see how one person's dedication to, uncovering the truth can have such a lasting impact, you know?
For sure.
Like Jon Snow, he just wouldn't give up
He was relentless.
until he found the answer.
And his work has saved countless lives,
It's incredible, really. It highlights how important it is to question assumptions.
Absolutely.
To not just accept things at face value.
Right. Always be curious.
And to follow the evidence, no matter where it leads.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Broad Street pump and Jon Snow's investigation, what's the key takeaway here? What have we learned?
Well, I think for me, the big takeaway is the power of observation.
Yeah.
The importance of data, real hard data.
Right.
And having the courage to challenge the status quo.
Even when it's unpopular.
Especially when it's unpopular.
Because sometimes those unpopular ideas are the ones that lead to the biggest breakthroughs.
Exactly. And Jon Snow's work is a perfect example of that.
He wasn't just trying to solve this one outbreak.
No, it was bigger than that.
He was trying to change the way we think about public health.
Absolutely.
And he did it.
He revolutionized the field, really.
Yeah, and it all started with, a map and a pump.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
And his legacy lives on, you know,
It does.
and all the lives that are saved
Yeah.
through modern sanitation, clean water initiatives.
Those are things we take for granted now, but they're so important.
It's like you were saying earlier, we often don't think about these things
Right, until something goes wrong.
until there's an outbreak or a crisis.
Yeah, it's easy to forget how fragile our public health systems can be.
But Jon Snow's story reminds us that even the simplest things,
Hmm.
like access to clean water,
Right.
can have a profound impact on health and well-being.
It really can. It's fundamental.
So before we go, I want to leave everyone with a thought-provoking question.
Okay, I like it.
What seemingly small things in our life today might have huge impacts on the future of public health?
Oh, it's a great question.
What innovations or changes could become, the Broad Street pump moments of the future?
Hmm, that's something to think about, isn't it?
It is. And who knows, maybe there's a future Jon Snow out there right now,
Maybe.
listening to this, ready to challenge the status quo
I hope so.
and lead us towards an even healthier tomorrow.
That would be amazing.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the past.
My pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay well, everyone.